Ron DeSantis threatens statewide venues for hosting a drag queen Christmas event.
The DeSantis administration is going after the Broward Center for the Performing Arts in Fort Lauderdale, as well as other venues, after receiving public complaints of a drag queen Christmas event on December 26th. I don't know what has been, I don't know what was taking place in that show. I don't know how it was, carried out, but complaints that have been registered recognize a pattern of saying there was reason to believe that there was the exposing or exhibition of sexual organs, that the show was it had a sexual nature, that there were sexual acts that were simulated, or children's stories were being sexualized. They were also told that these shows have been marketed to and attended by minors, including young children. So, all of these were the complaints that were issued against this show. According to someone who has reviewed the show, what they say is that the show contains one reference to alcohol, but it has neither nudity nor sexual references included in that. It was really kind of an odd thing. If they actually sat through the show, how did they see two different things? But then a spokesperson for the Broward Center told The Hill that the drag performance was limited to people 18 years or older unless accompanied by a parent. Now, the webpage said it was an all ages show and that it may contain adult content, but it was still very much an informed consent issue. This was put at the feet of the parents, saying this is for 18 and older. There may be adult content. If you bring your kids, you are responsible for their presence there, not the center. So, this has turned into a mess where people who had full consent of potential adult information bringing their kids to this show. Now, I want to say this. When Deadpool came out, the original Deadpool movie, there was a lot of talk about how it was a rated R show, a rated R movie, that there was going to be a lot of content in it that would be controversial, that really it should have been almost pushed to an NC-17, but it was given the rated R, which means no one under the age of 18 can enter unless they are accompanied by an adult. Now, if you've seen Deadpool, you know that there's cursing, you know that there's violence, and there is some very heavy sexual content in that. When I went to see Deadpool, there was what looked like an entire birthday party of like 8 to 10-year-olds. There were 7 or 8 kids on the front row watching that movie. If there was sexual content in that movie, why did the theater allow those kids to go into that theater to watch that movie? The simple answer is parental choice.
I was going to say grooming, but hey.
This is the same thing, though. These parents brought their kids to this show after being informed. They were told, hey, this might push the bounds a little bit. Now, it's back on the parents. But who gets targeted are the venues. They're going after the venues. And Emily and I had a little bit of a discussion about this. It is not the performers who are at fault if the content of a performance violates city code.
Mm-hmm.
It is up to the management to ensure that the performers are within city code, because those venues' licenses depend upon following the city codes. And if their performance steps outside of the boundary, then the city can step in. They can pull the licenses to have events. They can pull the licenses to serve alcohol, serve food, and they can make things very impossible for the venue. This was the case where they are now pushing against the venue for allowing an event to happen, even though the parents had informed consent.
Well, I would say that this is really unfortunate, and really problematic. But we saw in an article that we covered 2 weeks ago about another drag show that, it was about Matt Walsh calling for violence in arresting the people who performed in a drag show, as well as it was basically a violent arrest. So you tackle them and knock them down and drag them out on by their heels. But then also calling for the arrest and I don't know. I don't know what to what degree he would call for, but all of the people that were there in attendance and the parents, basically saying that parents shouldn't have the right to choose what their kids are exposed to. And
And
now we see people going after venues. We see vigilantes doing it, and we see violence. People throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting bullets at windows and things like that with places where venues that host drag shows. And now we
right,
see them politically going after the venues. It's really unfortunate, especially since all of the caveats were there, all of the consent was there. It was completely informed consent, like you said. So this is very problematic because they claim that it's the rights of the parents to make the decisions for what their kids can and can't do or see or learn about, and yet they're saying, oh, but you don't have the right to choose in this case or in this
right.
case or in this case.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's just a high level of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it is a super high level of, just okay, so parents, we're going to write the the rights that you have into our fundamental statement as conservatives. And then we're going to take all of those things away when they don't measure up to our moral standard.
Yep, I say it over and over again, states' rights to limit the rights of the individuals.
And look, right now, I mean, if I could get the money scraped together, I'd give somebody a $10,000 bounty to find out what Mount Walsh's browser history looks like.